What is going on, everybody? It's the France and we here for a new series I hope to start and do on this channel called Tuesday Night Free Match. If you watch Brian Zane and his weekly or monthly pay-per-view reviews of past pay-per-views, then it's something like that, only I'm not doing one pay-per-view, I'm doing a match. And the way I'm doing this is that Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, WWE, and other wrestling promotions put free matches on their YouTube channels weekly. So I figured I'd go back, watch a match, go blow for blow on it, and talk about the match that we see. And as you see right now, this week we're starting off with Bound for Glory 2010 Lethal Lockdown, Fortune versus EV2. Go a little bit of history for this match. EV2, of course, was the ECW Legends. Fortune was Ric Flair's faction going into Impact Wrestling TNA when he was there in 2010 to 12 or 2011. This was a combination of things that have happened between these two for a couple months. Now, we're going to get a little backstory on Fortune first. In 2010, live 3-hour episode of Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, Ric Flair made his debut for the company, observing the main event match between AJ Styles and Kurt Angle on January 17th. At the Genesis pay-per-view, Flair helped Styles defeat Angle to retain the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, and in the process, turn him and Styles heel. Now, a lot of people criticize this because AJ Styles just didn't seem to fit the mold of somebody who would be what I want to say would fit the mold of a Ric Flair protege. Ric Flair is flamboyant. He's a ladies' man. He's a womanizer. AJ Styles is a good Christian family man with a family. So it just didn't seem to fit real well. And the fact that they took AJ Styles from himself and tried to make him a mini Ric Flair with him having a Ric Flair type robe and everything, it just didn't, to me, feel like it worked at the time. Flair announced that he was going to take Styles under his wing and make him the next Nature Boy. And on February 24th episode of Impact, Flair and Styles were joined by Desmond Wolfe, which of course is Nigel McGuinness, who is now a commentator in NXT. And in the weeks leading up to Lockdown, Beer Money Inc., Bobby Roode, and James Storm and Sting were added to the group to complete Team Flair for the annual Lethal Lockdown match. On April 18th at Lockdown, Team Flair was defeated by Team Hogan, Abyss, Jeff Hardy, Jeff Jarrett, and Rob Van Dam. Now, going into this Lethal Lockdown, there was a lot of rumors, and Sting, because Ric Flair was going up against Hulk Hogan on an episode of Impact. Sting showed up and he attacked Hulk Hogan because behind the scenes, Sting knew what was really going on, and instead of coming out with him like, "Hey, Hulk Hogan is a bad dude," I'm going to go and join and show you by just dropping hints. Styles lost the TNA World Heavyweight Championship to Van Dam on the following Impact. After Lockdown, Sting left the group and went on the feud with Jeff Jarrett, while the rest of the Team Flair remained intact. With Styles' recent shortcomings, Flair adopted X Division standout Kazarian as his newest protege on May 27th episode of Impact, much to Styles' dismay. On the June 17th episode of Impact, Flair announced that he would reform the legendary stable Four Horsemen, but under a new name, Fortune. This is because the Four Horsemen name was trademarked by WWE. So the Fortune, of course, was a new take on the Four Horsemen, and that was obvious because he was being the head of it. Instead of Ric Flair being the leader of the Four Horsemen, as in the guy who wins the championship and is the figurehead, he would be the, what was it? Yeah, let me see here. Compared Styles to former Four Horsemen partner Arn Anderson, Kazarian to Barry Windham, Robert Roode Storm to Ole Anderson and Tully Blanchard, and Wolf to Lex Luger, while also stating that each of them would have to earn their spot of the group. Of course, Ric Flair was their J.J. Dillon. Wanting peace between Styles and Kazarian, booked them in a tag team match against Samoa Joe and global champion Rob Terry at Victory Road. The plans seemed to work as Styles and Kazarian worked together and were victorious due to outside interference from Desmond Wolfe, and on July 15th episode of Impact, Flair announced that Styles and Kazarian had earned their spots in Fortune. Wolfe confronted Flair and demanded a membership in the group, but was not given one due to his long losing streak. On July 22nd episode of Impact, Styles defeated Rob Terry to win the global championship. That title was definitely just dead as a doornail from start to finish. After some assistance from Kazarian, in the following week renamed the title the TNA Television Championship. That same night, Fortune's lineup was seemingly complete with the addition of Robert Roode, James Storm, leaving Desmond Wolfe on the outside looking in. On the August 12th edition of Impact, X-Division champion Doug Williams, who had helped Ric Flair defeat his nemesis Jay Lethal in a street fight the previous week, and Matt Morgan were added to Fortune as a stable attacked Extreme version 2 or EV2. Before we continue on, let's talk about EV2. On July 15, 2010 edition of Impact Wrestling television show, former ECW wrestler Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer, Mick Foley, Raven, Stevie Richards, Rhino, Brother Devon, Pat Kenny, and Al Snow came together to form the stable EV2 and assaulted TNA locker room though TNA is legally prohibited from using the ECW name to the WWE's ownership. The association was indirectly referenced. The following week, President Dixie Carter agreed to give the ECW alumni the reunion pay-per-view event Hardcore Justice, which took place on August 8, 2010. Hardcore Justice is the only TNA pay-per-view I myself have ever bought. I never went out and actually bought any single pay-per-view before or after, just because I wanted to see what they would do compared to ECW One Night Stand ways before. On the following edition of Impact, Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer, Team 3D, Mick Foley, Sandman Sabu, Bill Alfonso, Ryder, Raven, Stevie Richards, Guido Moritato, and Tony Mamalu were assaulted by Abyss, AJ Styles, Kazarian, Beer Money, Robert Roode, James Storms, Doug Williams, and Matt Morgan of Ric Flair's Fortune stable, who thought the Hardcore Originals did not deserve to be in TNA. Now, it came out later on that the reason that they did this attack was because when Dixie Carter brought EV2 into the ring and just was was praising EV2, she, for some stupid reason, had this written out or something that she compared EV2 to the 90s version of Hulk Hogan. Like, Hulk Hogan was the big thing in the 80s. He was the be-all, end-all. So she compared ECW from 1996, 97, whenever it was, to 2001, to being just as big as it was for Hulk Hogan. Was she 100% right? No, but did they have a lot of influence back in the day? Yes. So that is where they started. Fortune started to build from January, and then in July, EV2 came around, and it all came down to a head. Now, let's see here. Dixie Carter on the following week gave the ECW TNA contracts in order for them to settle their score with Fortune United as a group. They named themselves EV2. Team 3D's contracts with TNA expired shortly thereafter. I did not know that at the time. And they made no more appearances as members of EV2, nor has Bill Alfonso or Sandman, who no-showed an Impact taping. Which, Sandman no-showing an event. How have I not heard that one before? Guido and Tony Luke all made their final appearances for TNA on August 26th edition of Impact in a squash match where they were defeated by Beer Money Inc. On September 2nd edition of Impact, EV2 was joined by Brian Kendrick, making him the first member of the group with no past ECW affiliate. At No Surrender, EV2 lost all 3 of their matches when Sabu unsuccessfully challenged Doug Williams for the TNA X Division Championship. Rhino lost to Abyss in a Falls Count Anywhere match, and Dreamer was defeated by AJ Styles in an I Quit match. On the following edition of Impact, Dreamer appeared in the Impact Zone alone amid EV2's defeat and attempted to reach a truce with Fortune, but was beaten down. The following week, he returned with Raven, Stevie Richards, Sabu, and Rhino, and announced that Dixie Carter had given them, the 5 of them, a lethal lockdown match against Fortune at Bound for Glory. Later that same night, Sabu lost to AJ Styles in a ladder match contested for the advantage at Bound for Glory. On October 7th, live edition of Impact, Mick Foley defeated Fortune leader Ric Flair in a last man standing match. And that's where we are right now. It is Bound for Glory 10-10-10. This is also a more famous episode of Bound for Glory, edition of Bound for Glory, due to the arrival of Immortal in the main event, where Jeff Hardy, first time in his career, would turn heel, joining Eric Bischoff, Jeff Jarrett, Abyss, and Hulk Hogan. But this match started off, we had Raven, Tommy Dreamer, Rhino, Sabu, and Stevie Richards with Mick Foley. Fortune had AJ Styles, Kazarian, Matt Morgan, NBA Money, Bobby Roode, and James Storms with Ric Flair. Unlike most years that I've seen for Lethal Lockdown, where you don't see any of the participants unless they're coming out for their entrance into the match. All 5 members for each team were out there with their captains. EV2 came out first, Fortune came out after, and Ric Flair immediately goes after Mick Foley, and they start brawling. This would not be the last time that they would brawl during this event. Kazarian and Stevie Richards would start this match for the first 5 minutes. They lock up. Kazarian gets the upper hand early with some strikes in the corner. Richards takes over the momentum with a series of neck breakers. Richards then shoves the back of Kazarian's head on the TNA cage a few times. And when I mention TNA cage, you usually think of a cage match. You think of a cage that just there's a lot of give. You throw somebody in it, and the cage bounces back and forth. TNA is famous back in the day. I don't know if it's still now because I haven't seen a TNA cage match or an Impact Wrestling cage match recently. But they were famous back during the 6 sides of ring, and right after that they have one of the most unforgiving steel cages you will ever see. You see somebody thrown into that, and it's like being thrown into a brick wall. This thing is absolutely brutal to go into. Every single member of EV2 was bleeding in this match, and at least half of Fortune was bleeding in this match. Kaz takes back over by blocking a dropkick and a springboard blade drop to Richards. Kaz misses a top rope blade drop after he continues the assault. Gets him in the corner. Richards gets him in the corner and delivers chops to the chest of Kazarian and mocks Flair with a mocking woo and strut. Richards in control as the timer takes down. He puts Kazarian in a submission. I don't remember what the submission is actually called. But the timer hits 0 and AJ Styles comes in for the man advantage. Now, AJ Styles is absolutely one of the best there is that will ever do it. I love AJ Styles in WWE because he is one of the best to ever do it. But his best days were in Impact Wrestling TNA. There's stuff in TNA Impact Wrestling that he used to do that he doesn't do anymore that would just send you wow. But this was him coming in for the main advantage. He hits a drop kick on Richards, and then it's now a 2-on-1. But Kaz and Styles take it to Richards for the next 2 minutes. If you're wondering what is a Lethal Lockdown match, as I should put this out, Lethal Lockdown is Impact Wrestling's TNA's version of War Games. The difference is it's one cage, and after all participants are in the ring, because it's got no roof on it at the start of the match. But as soon as all participants are in, the ceiling comes down, and the ceiling is littered with weapons inside and outside, and we'll put that in when we get there towards the end. A lot of double team moves, and Styles puts Richards in a figure 4, and Kaz holds his arms down as the timer hits down, so he can't move and try and get out of it. Timer hits 0. Tommy Dreamer goes in, and he goes immediately to AJ Styles, but Kaz and Styles stop that before Dreamer closes lines on them both, and then picks up Styles and brings out his great Muda in him as he's missed him with water or something to blind him for a minute so he can have an advantage on Kazarian because Stevie Richards is still down from the 2-minute beatdown that he had. Dreamer takes down Kaz and goes back to AJ and slams him into the corner. Back to Kaz and back to AJ, who hits a pump handle suplex, who he hits a pump handle suplex on. Richards back up finally, and him and Tommy Dreamer hit a double team move. Looked like a white noise neckbreaker combination. Stevie is selling his ankle because of the figure 4 leg drop, because of the figure 4. I'm pretty sure he only sells it for now. He doesn't sell it later, but at least he gave you some selling continuity at this time. Dreamer uses Richards as a body slamming dummy because he picks him up and body slams him onto AJ Styles. In the corner, Richards is trying to suplex Kaz as AJ knocks down Tommy Dreamer. So he goes over and pulls Richards down and pulls a Tower of Doom off on Stevie Richards and Kazarian, taking both guys out. As Kazarian's coming down, Tommy Dreamer's up, trying to come over to stop this, and actually whacks Tommy Dreamer in the face with his boots. Everybody is down. Clock hits 0, and in comes Bobby Roode as it leaves. That's going to leave James Storm and Matt Morgan for their last 2 participants. He goes straight for Dreamer and throws him headfirst into the steel cage, then right to Richards, who he takes down. While that's going on, Styles has Dreamer's face right up against the cage, and he is bleeding from the shot to the cage. Yes, with the fact that there is no give on these cages for Impact Wrestling TNA, there's a higher chance to bust yourself open the hard way, because the give, you're going to bounce, and that cage is going to bounce with you. With there being no give, you're running right into that metal, and yes, it could be a blade job, but most times out of not, it's going to be a shot right to the cage. AJ drives Dreamer over to the cage, and Impact Wrestling also, on these cages, they have 2 holes on each side that are big enough to fit a camera lens in, so a cameraman can have his camera focused on the action without the cage always being in the way. I wish WWE would do that, but WWE's cage is not built like that. So, and also, it's big enough that you can put somebody's head into it. So AJ brings Tommy Dreamer over, who's already bleeding, into this camera hole where Ric Flair's at, and Ric Flair just starts laying in the shots on him. Then they take him over to the side where EV2's at, puts his face into the cage, and you hear Bobby Roode taunting, just yelling at Mick Foley, just yelling at him, taunting him with the fact that he's got his boy bleeding profusely. Timer hits 0, and in comes Sabu right after AJ Styles. By the way, I gotta preface this too, Sabu at this time in 2010 is bald. I don't know if he's bald now, but in 2010, for whatever reason, he decided to shave his head off completely. Sabu comes right in after AJ laying him out. A lot of these guys in the EV2 went straight for AJ every time they came in. I don't know, if they were shooting on AJ for the back, but AJ took a lot of shit for this. AJ lays him out. He hits a whisper in the wind on Kaz, and a whisper in the flying clothesline into Rude, into each corner. He then runs up the ropes, looks to do a springboard back into AJ with a tornado DDT. He stumbles a minute, but he does recover and does hit the Styles with the tornado DDT. Power slam by Dreamer, who is a bloody mess. EV2 in complete control of Fortune. Fortune tries to fight back as timer goes down to 0, and in comes James Storm, leaving Matt Morgan in as the anchor for Fortune. In my opinion, after watching all this, I think that I'll get to that, my opinion on that later. Back to Fortune. Beer Money launches Dreamer into the air, then AJ and double DDT on Richards, then a double suplex on Sabu. Fortune in complete control, now Sir Rude and Storm, which these guys are a heel team at the time, but if you don't know Beer Money, they would crouch down for a second, have their arms out, wave their arms, and then we'd have Storm go up Beer, and then Bobby Roode would go with Money, Beer, Money, and the crowd plays along with it. That made sense for them to do that while they were baby faces, but they were full-blown heels at this time as part of Fortune. So that made no sense why they would do that. But anyway. Let me see here. Richard gets a super kick on Rude, and immediately as soon as he does his super kick, Storm hits him with the super kick, and I believe he says, "That's how you do a super kick" to Stevie Richards. Dreamer again sent into the cage wall as the timer ticks down, and in comes Raven, who's next taking down AJ and then going after Kaz, and then AJ hitting a combination bulldog clothesline on AJ and Kaz. Beautiful looking spot. Raven tosses Rude into the cage, and he grabs a handkerchief, blows his nose, and then stiffs it right into Kaz's face. Ugh. No thank you. I mean, yeah, he might not have actually blown his nose, and the handkerchief might have been, completely clean, but it's just a visual of him blowing his nose and then stuffing it at somebody's face is just, ugh. Dreamer has AJ in the tree of woe, and he decides to step up on AJ's balls while he's in the middle of the tree of woe. I've never had that happen, but if you're a guy like me, having somebody kick you in the balls or having your balls hit anywhere like that definitely is not a good feeling. Rude is now bloody as Dreamer works on the wound. EV2 just brutalizing Fortune. The timer hits 0, and in comes Big Matt Morgan. Makes his way into the ring and takes down Richards, and then Dreamer and powerbombs Sabu into the steel cage. Sabu also is bleeding at this time. The only 2 people on EV2 not bleeding at this time, it seems like, well, 3 is probably Raven, who just came in recently, Rhino, and Mick Foley. Fortune is putting the boots to everyone and brutalizing EV2. Raven is not is bleeding. The timer finally gets to 0, and Rhino, who's just ready to go and gets a head start, comes in, and he gets hit with it. He just comes in, takes a couple. I think he took AJ down as well. Hits a gore, and he calls for the roof to be lowered. And at this time, there's nobody to hold Flair and McFoley back anymore. It's just them two out there. So they start brawling outside the cage. They're brawling over by the announce desk. They're brawling up the ramp. They're just brawling and getting their animosity in with each other. The cage roof finally lowers, and it's time for carnage. AJ takes a cookie sheet to the head. There's just weapons everywhere. There's an axe handle. Raven had an axe handle. You had kendo sticks. You had baseball bats. You had chairs. Everything. Richard is bleeding from the mouth. The chair shots, kendo stick shots. Raven has an axe handle. Fortune tries to fight back. Everyone is brawling with weapons. Morgan misses, goes for a carbon footprint on Stevie Richards, but Stevie Richards, which hit the carbon footprint, is a big boot that Matt Morgan does. Stevie moves out of the way, and he ends up kicking the door of the cage. And again, this thing has no give, so that probably hurt more than a normal kick to a cage door or a cage part would actually hurt. Kaz tossed into the door, and the door flies open. Kaz is outside. Dreamer closes the door, but Rhino opens it. He wants to go outside, but he ends up coming back in. Everybody's spilling out. Kaz climbs up. Stevie Richards climbs up. You're on top of the roof. There are two tables and a ladder. And on one of the tables is a black sheet and somebody underneath of it. You don't know who it is, but if you listen to what I said earlier, you know who it is by now. Kaz and Richards are brawling on top, and Kaz wants to throw Richards off the cage. Richards stops that. The only two left in the ring, as everyone else spills out, is AJ Styles and Tommy Dreamer. Richards sets up the table, but Kaz with a low blow. He puts Richard on the table. Kaz goes up for the ladder and goes to climb, but all of a sudden, the sheet comes up, and it's Brian Kendrick. Yes, Brian Kendrick was sitting on this ceiling, on this roof, this entire match. This match was about 20 minutes long before they got this, about almost 20 minutes before they dropped the cage door finally. The roof finally. He appears from under the sheet, fights Kaz and on the ladder, causing both to fall on the cage roof. AJ hits the Pele kick to Dreamer at the same time. Kendrick hits the Pele kick, and at that same time, Kendrick is back body dropping Kaz through the table, and then he just sits down, Indian style, and just starts meditating. As all the carnage around him is going, like he's at peace. He helped EV2. Back in the ring, Dreamer hits Styles in the knees as Styles is up on the top rope, looking like he's going to come off with a forearm or something. Hits him in the knees with the chair, goes up top. Dreamer driver off the top rope. 1, 2, 3. EV2 wins. Lethal lockdown over Fortune. Now, I don't think Matt Morgan needed to be in this match, and I don't think Sabu needed to be in this match. You could have cut this down to 4 guys on each side, and it would have been just fine. There was absolutely no reason to have 10 men in this ring. I think the only reason they had everybody spill out of this match is because there's honestly not enough room for 10 guys in a ring and a referee. This is why when you see WWE do War Games, you have 2 rings, because if you want to have 10 men in the ring, there's enough room for 2 cages. This was a very fun match to watch. Was it the most perfect match? No. Of course, Sabu with a little slip up there. You had a couple things here and there. This was a fun match. If I had to give this a star rating, I would give this a 4-star out of 5. Solid 4. There was a lot of action, a lot of carnage, blood everywhere. If you're somebody who wants to see blood in a steel cage match, you got your blood. You got weapons. You got people hitting their finishers left and right. You had a nasty, nasty gore, I believe, on James Storm. You had so many guys in this match that you see in WWE today, from Brian Kendrick, who was up on the top. You have AJ Styles, Robert Roode. You have Rhino, who's in Impact Wrestling still. You have Matt Morgan off doing whatever he wants. I don't know what Raven and Sabu are doing. Tommy Dreamer's affiliated with Impact Wrestling still today. There's so much action going into this match. This, of course, like, if it wasn't for what happened at the end of this show, I'm pretty sure we would have seen this be the most talked about thing at Bound for Glory. But this was a very, very good show. Very good match. People might not like it, but in my opinion, I love this match. 4 out of 5 on that scale. After the Lethal Lockdown, October 21st edition of Impact, we're going to go a little bit further in this for EV2. Eric Bischoff claimed that someone from EV2 had been calling him, trying to get to be a part of his new Immortal stable. RVD, whose friends Jeff Hardy had turned on him 2 weeks ago earlier to join Immortal, wanted to find out who had been talking to Bischoff and first accused Raven of being the one. Later, he and Sabu were defeated in a tag team match by Beer Monkey Inc. after Sabu accidentally hit him with a chair. After the match, Van Dam and Sabu began shoving each other and had to be separated from each of the rest of EV2. After 2 more weeks of dissension between Rob Van Dam and the rest of EV2, Tommy Dreamer challenged RVD to a match at Turning Point. At the pay-per-view, Van Dam defeated Dreamer and afterwards made peace with him. Also at Turning Point, Brian Kendrick, Raven, Richards, Rhino, and Sabu faced Fortune in a 10-man tag match where each member of EV2 put their contracts on the line. Fortune won the match and afterwards fired Sabu. He was, of course, leaving. He actually was released by Impact Wrestling. On the following edition of Impact, Rhino revealed himself as the traitor. Bischoff has been talking about costing RVD his match against Kazarian, afterwards hitting Dreamer with a chair. The following week, Raven was forced to put his future on the line in the match against the TNA World Heavyweight Champion Jeff Hardy, and of course, Hardy won. As a result, Raven was released by TNA. His release from the company was also legitimate. On December 5th, at Final Resolution, Rhino wrestled his final match for the promotion at the time when he faced Rob Van Dam in a First Blood match in a losing effort. The stable hasn't made appearances since January 11, 2011. Stevie Richards announced that he quit TNA. Now, Fortune, the next Impact Wrestling after Bound for Glory, they came out, they confronted the new Immortal stable, and we all thought that, it's going to be faction warfare, Immortal versus Fortune, and unfortunately, whatever reason they decided to do this, you had Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan embrace, and Immortal became a lot bigger with Fortune. Fast forwarding a couple months later, I don't remember the actual month this was, there started to be another they. They are here. They are coming to take out Immortal. Well, Ken Anderson was, I believe, taking on Jeff Hardy, and I think it might have been February. It might have been February because March was when they had the entire drugged-up version of AJ Styles. But Fortune turned on Immortal in the beginning of 2011, I believe it was. And if you really want to see a really, really, really good version of Bobby Roode, a really awesome program for Bobby Roode, go onto YouTube and find the promo after they turned on, Fortune turned on Immortal, because that, I think, is Bobby Roode, babyface Bobby Roode, not heel Bobby Roode, but babyface Bobby Roode at his best. But just one more thing before we get out of here, I want to say that this was around the time that Impact Wrestling, TNA, this is before they became Impact Wrestling. They became Impact Wrestling, I believe, in the summer of 2012. They had another year or so before they became Impact Wrestling. Well, the TV show became Impact Wrestling as we know it today, or it started to. But this was a good match. And what was, I don't know, I did not really see Bound for Glory 10-10-10. I do know more about it. I was shocked when Jeff Hardy turned heel. But Fortune stayed around for about another 2 years. Of course, everyone knows that Fortune disbanded when Bobby Roode turned heel, and because James Storm won the Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship from Kurt Angle. Then after next year's Bound for Glory, which was 2011, it was Bobby Roode versus Kurt Angle. Bobby Roode lost that match, even though everyone expected him to win it. And then the next Impact taping, Kurt Angle lost to James Storm. James Storm put the title on the line against Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode cracked him over the head with the beer bottle, won the world title, and after that, Fortune disbanded. EV2, yes, they were gone by January of 2011. But all in all, what they decided to do with this, I guess this was... The only thing, if I could make a change, is I think Fortune should have won. What was the point of having EV2 win this match? It did nothing. You had the whole traitor thing could have still happened if you want to do this whole traitor thing. EV2 should have lost to Fortune. I don't know who booked them to win this match. It was a good match overall. A lot of carnage. There is a lot for everybody in this match. Not a perfect match. There's always going to be hiccups in a match like this. Even both War Games matches in WWE, NXT so far, have had some hiccups. But all in all, probably one of the more fun matches I've seen so far. This is only episode 1. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. If you have a free match on YouTube that you have watched from Impact Wrestling, WWE, Ring of Honor, I'd say AEW is out right now because I've seen everything and I think reviewed everything they've had so far, but AEW in the future, House of Glory, MLW, anywhere, it has to be a single match, not a full event, a single match on YouTube. Let me know in the comment section below and I will check it out, have a review for it, and talk about it on here. But hit that subscribe button again, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The France Club, find me on twitch.tv/The France Club, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for AEW on TNT, Thursday for NXT, Friday for SmackDown Live, Friday Night SmackDown, and Sunday for Unscripted. Until then, my name is The France, and I'll see you guys later.